Well, many are renaming President Cyril Ramaphosa's stimulus plan a recovery plan, but criticisms have been that there's not much new in it. The Banking Association of South Africa estimates that small and medium enterprises employs 60% of South Africa's labor force. It also claims it contributes 34% to the GDP. So does the recovery plan really have sufficient ideas to help this critical part of South Africa's economy? With me to speak about this is Isaah Mhlanga, who is the Executive Chief Economist at Alexander Forbes. Good evening, Isaah. Thanks very much for your time. Well, you had over the past, 5 days especially, quite a barrage of criticisms from your ratings agencies, your Fitches and Moody's, to your business chambers like the South African Chamber of Commerce and Industry, but also numerous other sort of interest groups, which then, brings us to the question, how much more, will it be worse in as far as the township economy is concerned if big industry is already saying this is not going to make much of a difference, if any?
I think there is, some legitimacy to the criticism. I mean, if you look in other countries, a fiscal stimulus means injecting new money into the economy. But
and here we're talking about what, 1% of the GDP?
Exactly. If you look at what the president has announced, is simply a reprioritization of existing spending that is already budgeted for. So it's not new money. Nonetheless, I think if you look where we're coming from, this is a positive because the efficiency gains that are going to be gained from reprioritizing from current spending, which does not necessarily create new employment, focusing more on small businesses, which are the biggest creators of employment, I think that is a positive. But I think there is also another element that needs to be put into the picture. Unless if you have the private sector joining on and helping to fund new businesses, this is not going to be as much as is expected out of it. So yes, it's a stimulus in as far as stimulating small businesses is concerned, but it's not a stimulus in the bigger context of the injection of new money that is going to kickstart South Africa's economic growth. So the criticism is warranted.
So I mean, if then there is already, business, we're talking about the, the banking sector. We're talking about SACI, the Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Now, do you then expect the people who believe that government has not done enough to then come to the party?
Unlikely for them to come to the party. And if you look historically, small businesses have struggled to get funding from the usual financiers.
Yes, the people who have money are the ones who are criticizing.
For obvious reasons. Start-up businesses are known to be risky the world over. So if you are asking the private sector to take on that risk without the requisite return being guaranteed, it's very problematic for the private sector. Hence, government has to play an increasing role in the incubation of small businesses. This is what the private sector would have expected. If you look at the renewable energy program, it had clear parameters such that the private sector could price the risk for it, and you saw all the projects were signed up, over a very short space of time. This is what the private sector is expecting in other sectors, for government to come with something that looks like an investment book with projects that come together with clear parameters of this is what the private sector tends to benefit, this is the risk they're taking, and this is government's involvement, and that's how they come together, government and private sector, to play in those particular sectors. But in this case, we don't have anything that looks like that. So it remains too risky for the private sector to start with, but the mere fact that these are small businesses, the failure rate, 95% of all startups tends to fail. That is the nature of entrepreneurship. But the few that succeed, they normally grow to become big businesses that have a big influence on the economy.
Now, when the president announced that stimulus package the other Friday, there were two areas where small businesses or township businesses stand to benefit, and that was tourism as well as that kick-starting township activities through those industrial parks that he made reference to. Now, if we start with tourism, right, the people who benefit from tourism the most are the big ones, your big parks, your big hotels. B&Bs and places that are based in the townships, shebeens, are kind of a bit of a by the way, So they are not big beneficiaries of tourism. Do you believe that from what he announced, and given already the challenges that have been identified by the Tourism Business Council, for example, that the relaxation when it comes to visa requirements and so on is only going to kick in, nobody knows when, exactly. So there again, it's difficult. One is trying to avoid pessimism, but it doesn't look like that sector is about to benefit from this stimulus. Well, certainly not in the next, in the near future.
Look, I think the focus on small businesses is a good gesture. It shows that there are clear intentions to focus on the things that matter in job creation.
But is it real? That's really the point I'm getting at. Was it just lip service?
I think for now, there's still more that needs to be done. I'll give you one clear example which shows that there is no proper coordination. Government is not taking every opportunity it gets in order to boost small businesses. Look at the state of capture inquiry. Where is it taking place? It's somewhere here in, in Parkhurst. The amount of economic activity that is generated around it by the people that sell food from restaurants is quite significant. Why wasn't it placed in a township where people can actually come and sell food? They can sell other things, generating economic activity. It's going to last possibly 2 years. That's 2 years of injecting economic activity in a township. But government saw it fit to take it and put it in an environment or in a place which does not possibly need it. There is an opportunity which government have lost. So if I look at such a clear, simple example with the announced mega stimulus for small businesses, I think there are discords. There is no proper coordination. So it makes me doubt whether this is going to truly inject life into small businesses or not, if government is still failing to take the small opportunities that come.
Let's look at the industrial parks. The president said there's going to be a focus on 3 regional industrial parks as well as 26 township industrial parks. Now, from your understanding of how industrial parks works, is that going to work?
As it stands, small businesses that exist, the spaza shops are disorganized. They don't buy together in bulk. Hence, you saw a lot of protests between locally based spaza shops with foreign-owned spaza shops, because the foreign-owned are better organized. They buy in bulk and reap the benefits of discounts and so forth. But as long as small businesses locally remain disorganized, industrial parks possibly are not going to work, because they work on the efficiency gains that come from small businesses coming together as one and simply sharing the profits from selling particular product or services. But so far, it remains absent.
Now, you have the finance minister going to have his medium-term budget statement. Now, is there a chance that in the context of delivering that statement, he can then deal with all the problems, some of which we were talking about just now? In other words, is there a way he can then correct the wrongs, address the fears that people have, speak to the criticisms that have been leveled at the president's stimulus package?
I think it's wrong sometimes to lump all the responsibility to the finance minister.
But isn't that the only opportunity that government perhaps has?
To do is to take money that was collected by SARS and apportion it according to a predetermined formula. And sometimes there are limitations to what the finance minister can do.
But remember, they did say that the detail of that stimulus package will be made known or public when the finance minister, gives.
That's correct, but we should have already had some noises of some sort from the Minister of Small Businesses. That is where it should be done. But we haven't had anything. It's almost like it's non-existent. For good reason, because they have failed to stimulate small businesses historically. But I think what the finance minister can do, let's hope from now until then, they are working together with DTI, small businesses, economic development, in order to reprioritize some of this spending towards small businesses. It has always been possible for government procurement to be focused on regenerating small businesses, helping them organize so that they can be able to provide government services as a group. But that has not taken place. Let's hope this time around, government will be more resolute, given that the president has announced this renewed focus on small businesses, that they are going to announce something that actually gives light to these ideas. Otherwise, we'll continue to speak about the same things that we have always spoken about over the last 10 years. Small businesses are the job creators. Small businesses are the linchpins of an economy without doing anything practical about it.
Okay, well, Isaac, thanks very much for your time. But before you leave, I believe you are hosting Let's Have It Out Tonight.
That's correct. I'll be hosting Let's Have It Out Tonight. The focus is really informing or having a discussion about should we care about emerging market crisis as South Africans.
Which has been our focus for this week on this program. Thanks very much and best of luck later on. Well, we're going to take a quick ad break. We continue right after this. Don't go away.